with the market
Do we
that
do?
it kind of messes with your head a little bit, doesn't it? Obviously, things settle down.
Yes, because everything you've learned is not based on a big elephant in the room. Everything
Yeah,
you've
that's very
learned
true.
and everything you've taken on board, your experiences, don't don't include things like, hello, the whole world could die.
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit over the top, but you know what I mean.
Oh, I do, mate. I do.
It's extreme circumstances.
Yes, it is, and these are really interesting ones as well because I remember the tsunami and what that did to markets as well. These events happen seldom, but they do happen, and you're not kind of like looking at normal market conditions and go, okay, what can I garner from what I'd normally do here? Because you almost need to go back to those big moments in history where they're just a flash. It's almost like flash crashes. Good morning, Alan. Yeah, and how you trade those because it's almost like a different template to what's normal.
Well, as I said yesterday, it was probably in the US session. I can't quite remember. I was a little bit doughy yesterday after traveling. And you either trade the way you trade, or you have to now think, all right, what is the likely outcome here? Am I going to trade perhaps this scenario is going to happen, or perhaps that scenario is going to happen? And if so, you've virtually got to take a position. So if I look at the chart you've got on your screen there now, you sell at market and put your stop way above the high.
Yes,
that's it.
Yeah,
and wait for it to unfold.
Well, this was a really nice setup as it went, and the only reason I didn't trade it was because I saw there's been developments from Germany and France with the rescue package for the European economies. Good morning, Sweet. And it kind of put me off because I just thought, well, is that going to strengthen the euro or weaken it? Because it's not an EU package. It's two countries that are actually getting together and presenting something to the rest of the EU. To potentially kind of help out companies, but I don't think it's a printing money scenario. So that's the only reason I didn't trade the Euro Aussie, because actually the Euro Aussie setup was really nice. When you kind of look at it, in fact, we should probably get to the.
Yeah, I had a partial setup on it this morning. I said to my guys, maybe, but I traded at the end of the day. What did I trade? I can't even remember now. I'll have a look.
Well, we'll come back to it in a moment. Let's talk about the FTSE very, very briefly. Unbelievable move in the FTSE, really, off the back of a decent push to the downside,
Wow.
But it just hasn't come back. Just that this area was the only area to get in, and since then it's just been really too dangerous. It doesn't look like it should be dangerous because it's just going up and up and up, but too dangerous if you kind of approach this on a regular basis. But this should pop up another 10 to 20 pips before finding any significant resistance. When we look at this on a daily, then there is a bit of resistance up here, which is pretty significant, to be fair. That's a fairly significant point, and possibly the close as well, which is pretty much where we are now. So there could be a little bit of pullback from this particular point. And, the obvious place to get in, or the obvious place to try and get in when we look at these hourly charts, is on this daily pivot, because depending on when it happens, it might well coincide with this trend line and this high. So we're kind of, when I look at this, that's the price, but that's 100 pips, over 100 pips below where we are. What's going to bring it down 100 pips today when the mood is so buoyant? We got, as I said, overnight we had Moderna coming out with positive vaccine results, and the market has just been waiting for that. The market's getting back to work, and it wants to get back to work. So the economies are getting back to work, and the economy wants to get back to work with some safety in it, and it may well be provided. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's kind of hold your nose and get in.
That one, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And the problem with markets and trends like this, not that I think it will happen necessarily today, But where do you set your target? Because this literally could get blown over by a feather. It's just got no foundation. Structurally, it's got no foundation to remain up here, and or possibly higher. So just like we've seen with gold now, coming off fairly hard, this could come off fairly hard, and we may not get a reason why. But the only way to trade it right now is if you're hyper excited, you just get in, or you wait for your price. And as we said, it's a difficult question in some respects because we are in different times. So if you don't just get in, you may well miss something that could continue to skyrocket. Because or you wait for a significant move to the downside, which may well, for something to drive it down here, that might well be significant enough to say, actually, not interested anymore because it's got to get through these levels. So yeah, tricky one, mate, tricky one. But let's do the pound trade first, and maybe we'll come back and talk more about the FTSE and some of the other potential trades that are out there.
Right, bud. I'm doing it as we speak, and I'll pinch this. Whoa, something weird just happened.
Oh, I just gave you the screen. Good morning, Lewis.
Let me see. Right, that looks a whole lot better. Okay, so we're looking at the last 3 bars on the 1 hour chart. I'm on the 15-minute chart. Let's go to the 1 hour chart. And looking for our range to break. I can't go there because of that. Why do they have these blocks? I don't know. Too much. Righto, last 3 bars. This one, and this one. So a substantial range this morning. And the entry level is going to be, Angus is in the house, 122.84. I think I've actually got that up. No, I haven't, because it erased itself. 1.2284 will be the buy order.
He likes that.
He doesn't like sirens. There's an ambulance on the other side of the river, I think. The stop loss will be, sorry guys, 1.2104 will be the stop loss. And that is the buy order. So the sell order will be the reverse of that. My goodness. 1.2104 is the sell entry, and the sell stop loss will be 1.2284. We got a little bit out of yesterday's. In fact, I was quite lucky. I went to bed and left my trail underneath where it should have been, and I woke up and it was still going.
Nice.
Didn't make that much more, but it was a little bit more made. That's it. Righto. Now I'll place the orders while you're talking about the FTSE, but they are the orders there, guys.
Yeah, the pound had, I think, better than expected data. Let me just see what happened.
It was a massive day yesterday, and for the life
it was actually right, wasn't it? Yeah, right across the board. I mean, do you tend to get two big days in a row? Not normally.
No, you don't. And I expected another wax off day, but so far it looks like the risk is still on.
Yeah, the risk is definitely on. It's we've had a handover from the Asian market. Claiming count from the UK, terrible. Unemployment earnings, terrible. But the unemployment rate was better than expected at 3.9%, rather than the forecast 4.4% and the previous 4%. So actually, the unemployment rate actually not that bad. If you kind of look through historic data, we've had unemployment rates as high as 8% before, but the UK unemployment rate only at 3.9% is actually,
that's
ridiculous. A bit of a victory. Yeah,
that's massive. But I think, and everyone said this of Australia last week, that number is probably a little bit misleading because of the government subsidies. Well, I'm not sure what
Absolutely
you
right.
call them, the
Yeah,
wage whatever they call them.
the furloughing, yeah, the furloughing scheme. Yeah, well, absolutely right. But I suppose it is. I mean, it depends on how far this economic data goes back, really, because if we're looking at an unemployment rate of 3.9%, that means that whichever steps, if it's recent, if it's up to date enough, that means that the steps that the government has taken has had a positive effect on the companies not having to lay people off. I mean, I haven't heard any major issues, except from the airline stocks of huge layoffs. But there's certainly probably some companies that have managed to take advantage of any government schemes out there. And as I say, 3.9%, not a bad number at all. So the UK in not too bad shape, but it's a daily event. It's an event for the day. Now that doesn't mean that the pound structure will necessarily change off the back of that number. It won't. But it could be a bit of risk on with the pound even today, just for a period. Pretty nice spike. Early doors, and looks like with some dollar weakness, the pound may well have broken through a bit of a level as well, mate. I think maybe we see some further upside longer term with the pound. It could do with coming back a little bit, but looks like it might
Oh,
be bottoming out
longer
down
term,
here.
sure. As I said yesterday, I think it was in the US session. It's a massive level. The support is really strong right
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So
Don't see
yeah,
it's
nothing would surprise me.
It's not strengthening across the board. Interestingly, there's definitely a weak dollar story going on, isn't there? A weaker dollar
Yes.
story going on. Because I don't see the pound really kind of rocketing up against the CAD or against the Aussie or the Swissy. In fact, the Swissy is doing pretty well against, but not really against the euro. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too excited just yet on the pound as the currency to trade, but. It looks interesting. Gold again looking very, very interesting and looking extremely weak. While everybody was kind of getting into the longs, there were broader players out there, maybe waiting in the grass, just ready to attack. But it looks like they may well have started that.
We're still on
Uh,
my screen, by the way, mate.
oh, no worries. Okay, shall I? Did you want to go through anything?
No, I'll
Have you got
come back
anything
after
pending?
you.
Okay.
To answer Lewis's question, how significant if China really target and limit the import of dairy, fruits, wines, and seafood from Australia? I don't think that big, Lewis. I think it's not good, but Australia's got lots of scope for other markets in dairy, fruit, wines, and seafood, I would have thought. And I'm not saying that from a position of knowledge. I'm saying it from a position of thought process. And it's the same with barley. When they put an 80% tariff on barley, I think last week, and that was my initial reaction to that was we're going to see a weak Aussie, and we certainly haven't seen that at this point in time. So I think there is scope for Australia to trade with other people in those particular commodities, if you like. When it comes to things like coal, iron ore, aluminium, those sorts of things, or bauxite, if it comes to those, if they start whacking tariffs on those or stop the import of them, then I think there's a massive issue. But in terms of those resources that you've mentioned, I don't think it'll be that big. The beef's big, pork's big at the moment because of the swine thing, whatever that was in China. So yeah, they're big, but I think coal is the king, and so is of course iron ore. So those particular ones they've left alone, as you know. If they start putting restrictions on those, I think the Aussie is in terrible, terrible trouble. I think it's a bit of fluff at the moment, to be fair, although quite serious fluff. I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, of course, but yeah, I'm not that concerned at the moment. I was when I heard about barley, but I was actually listening to, and I do every day, midday, they have a show on the radio, the ABC radio here, and it's called the Country Hour. And they talk about all of those sorts of things. And the general consensus from, and whether I'm not sure if he's trying to actually make light of it, but the dude that was on there from Grain Corp or somewhere, I can't remember his qualifications, but he's a qualified dude to comment on it. He said he wasn't concerned at all about the barley thing, that they'd open up other markets pretty much in a heartbeat. So a couple of weeks setback, end of story. That was the barley thing, and that's why I'm saying I think there's probably potential for those other resources to be in the same boat.
Cool. Well, I'd have to say, mate, I'm looking at the FTSE and I'm kind of tempted to take a trade here. It's just coming back to test this hourly. Now, I do think it's going to pop up. My and I guess I'm telling you guys just in case, you know, there's somebody else that's braver than I am. This is a buy zone. What I'd really like with the FTSE is it down here, and I am going to wait for that. But I suspect we might well get one more push up. I'm not going to trade it. I think it's going to cost too much in probably emotional equity and also everything else. But I do think this is probably a decent level for another push to the upside. The reason I'm not going to trade it is that I'm not too sure whether we get through this level or the upper level. There is one more level up top. I don't know whether we get through that level unless we just there. Now that's and it is this is where it becomes a little bit tricky, really, because it's got a chance to bounce here, get up there and up there before coming back, and this might well prove to be a missed opportunity, but I'd really like it just to come down just a little bit more and then try and trade it. The only other probable way to do it is to go in light, and let me just see what that will cost.
No, I've just got to correct the pound short. Thanks for pointing it out, Shukri. The level should be, and it was confused by that box being open, noised the crap out of me. The level for the short and stop loss for the long should be 1.2182, not 2104 as before. So it should be 1.2182. Sorry about that, and thanks for pointing it out, Shukri.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is tricky. And I wouldn't normally consider this, but the move to the upside has been so strong that it is likely to continue. Maybe probably should have taken it already. I think we're going to have to leave this. We're going to have to leave it, I think, mate. I think I probably should have made that choice, really. I mean, I was thinking about it before the market opened, but I'm going to wait for it to come back down here. If it doesn't, then so be it. But there is a trade here, and there's a trade to the upside. My problem is the risk to reward. I mean, there is 100 pips to that particular point, so that might just about work out. And what if you are in this trade, or if you've decided to take it, then the way to play it is, if it touches this level again, then just get the stops to break even, just in case it does start to break down a little bit further. It's come a long way. That's my big issue. And I was Jeff and I were speaking just before we got on air, and the problem with moves like this is that they lack foundation. It is like a building being thrown up without them digging the proper regulations and going through the proper procedures, because it can just kind of fall down here without a proper test. So it needs it. The lack of test almost becomes like a gap, and that's why I don't particularly like getting into these things here. But so I'm going to leave it now. I actually don't think it's going to come down here first. I think it will pop up one more time and then come back. But I'm going to accept that. And wait for it to come back to this place here, and it's just really I I guess practice of how just because there is a trade in the market, it doesn't mean it's a good one. I'm struggling to justify the validity of it when I don't think I've got enough room to, because if it's only there to there, 1-to-1, is a 1-to-1 worth it at this stage? When we've just opened up, not really sure exactly, what might transpire in the next few hours. I'm not sure, so I'm gonna sit on the sidelines because I'm not sure I'm gonna sit on the sidelines. It's better to be wish I were in than wish I were out. So I'm gonna stay where I am and see if I can get my price, which is down here. Yeah, and just on that, we are in risk on territory still. Look at gold. Now, gold really needs to get through this area here if this is going lower. But there is a head and shoulders pattern forming. Now we've discussed really for the month that gold is in its second worst month of the year. So there's a pretty good chance that that gold does fall from here. Not the right place to get in. There was probably an opportunity. It looks like a little level there. So there's the neckline right along there. And we're just sitting on top of that neckline now. It would be really good as if it can break through the neckline and this lower band down here. And if it was able to do that, then I suspect we'd probably get a bit more of a significant run to the downside. And it is a little bit of a lookout down below with gold, I think if gold gives way, then it probably gives way pretty hard. So I think waiting on a decent pattern and a decent signal with this one would be pretty good. Now, the one trade that was really on for me this morning, which I didn't end up taking because of the headline, was the Euro Aussie, and it looks like it's still in a pretty good place actually. But looking at the Euro Aussie, I just really like the patterns with this one. And but I didn't like the news. I was reading about Merkel and Francois, not Francois Hollande, Macron putting together a package for EU nations, and I couldn't decipher whether that would be good or bad for the euro. And just when I was looking across the board and checking out the euro was still doing pretty well against the pound. It was doing pretty well against the dollar, as you can see here. So it didn't suggest that headline was that negative. I'd really want to see it weak across the board if I was going to, trade something that I had a pretty cloudy opinion on. And that's really what it was. But when you look at this structurally, it looks pretty good for some downside. We're definitely in a downtrend on the daily chart. Managed to find an equal low here. So it hasn't really continued, but it's when you switch to the 4-hour that this one becomes quite interesting. It looks like it's just taken out this retracement level. So step down, this is the retracement, and it looks like it might well have taken out that retracement level. And then flipping to the chart with a bit of detail, then we see that retracement level is right on top of some pivots here as well. So that there was an opportunity there with
one
the pound.
Other point in favour of that, Ash, was I did, Helen. Thank you so much. I feel much better today. If you go back to the 4-hour chart and draw a trend line, and this is what I was looking at very closely this morning from
below.
No, from above.
Yeah.
Not go to that high. The second high, put your start on the second high. Then swing through the red one swing down there.
Yeah.
And look what you've got.
Yeah. Looks pretty good, isn't it?
You've got a false break there. But no, I chose not to trade it. And the reason I chose not to trade it was because I think it's also at a reasonable support level.
Oops. This has got 139. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's got that far to travel. There's a 2-to-1 there if you had stops above the pivots. I guess one of the other problems here, mate, is that the pivots are actually untested. I mean, I know we've tried to get there, but we're still untested. And you put a stop just above that level, then you could actually get shaken out of this.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
it's. I don't think the direction for the day is yet decided, frankly.
No, no, it was yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? You know, you might have things that line up, certain things that line up, but it certainly, you know, from my perspective anyway, not trading currencies a day in, day out, you know, or not looking at currencies as in depthly as I would the FTSE. I kind of want to try and you know, trade them when I get just that little bit extra clarity. And I just had a little bit of a problem with the clarity on this one. I couldn't. Things were lining up, but because it didn't all line up, you know, there wasn't enough there. There's not enough meat on the bones, and all I really needed was for just a little bit of confluence with what I thought would be, you know, helpful to a weak Euro Aussie, which would just be, you know, some of those others just weakening off a bit. You know, if I'd seen a weak Euro across the board, or certainly against some of the majors, it would have been enough for me. But I actually saw it spike, and I thought, well, if it's spiking against those, then it's unlikely to collapse against the Aussie, which means that I could get caught in a bit of a crossfire. So, you know, just because there's a setup there, there's other factors that just you know, were just there to just putting me off. And I think you can illustrate that point when you look at the pound. You know, we were discussing the pound last week quite a lot, really, because of Brexit negotiations. But look at this with the pound. When things were starting to move with the pound, this is the 15th of May, so this is the end of the week last week. This one starts to come down. I'm just going to mark this off. This one starts to come down here, and really, what you've got here is a bit of a break of this level. So we really kind of had this inverted head and shoulders going on, and it was arguable whether you had a right shoulder here, or whether you had a breakdown. But it was below the daily pivot, and probably, you know, certainly could argue that we were putting in a lower high here, and there was that maybe a fairly maybe too steep to kind of be looking at too much there, but it looked like it was starting to break down a little bit. And then if we start to flip through what was going on with a pound at this point, this was the pound versus the euro. So sorry, this is the euro versus the pound. Again, it was kind of like looking like it was breaking through a level. So, you know, the pound was looking like it was getting a bit weaker against some of those other major currencies as well. You know, flip that down to the Aussie. This is the pound Aussie. You know, same time period here, it broken down. Had one more rush to the upside, but again, you know, you know, if we're sort of like looking at some of the trend lines, that had broken down. There was a trend line down here that was looking like you know, and all that one really ended up doing was testing, but certainly at the time it was looking like that was breaking down. Same with a CAD. One more spike to the upside. In actual fact, let's tighten this up a little bit. So, you know, you'd be looking at this bar here and then looking for the next bar. See what now, what clarity we now get better. You know, and there was quite a few that were just looking a bit weak. Even against the yen, you know, the yen wasn't doing particularly well, and even against the yen, it was weakening. This is back to the pound dollar, which had broken through at this particular point. So, with Brexit negotiations and some of the news from the United Kingdom, seeing it going the wrong way against some of the other markets was quite positive. But the problem with the euro, for me, the euro Aussie, is the spike. You know, it wasn't even that that it was flat against the dollar, but there was spiking going on. There's positive spiking going on, or there is positive spiking going on right now. You know, against the euro dollar, and that's what's kept me out of it. And you know, I would encourage everybody, when you just before you take a trade and just before you have your setup, just have a look around against you know, some of the other currencies that that you could trade it against. And just have a look, see what it looks like, and it may well give you a bit of an indication of how likely it is for your trade not only to work out, but to actually travel some distance. So I'm just having a look at some of these questions. Good morning, by the way, Helen and Shukri and Brian. Yeah, well, there you go. I suppose that's a good thing, isn't it, Lewis? And it's often, I should have checked the pound Swissy as well, but often is the case that you'll get a setup on a currency, against the dollar or something else that you might find, and there's setups all over the place, and they're really the best ones to take. They're the sweet ones to take. Um, just having a look at this. So, how significant is China? You got that good unemployment. Ash, from the chart, do you see more downside in gold after yesterday's big move down? I do. I do see more downside. I suppose that it's interesting, really, with gold because the dollar isn't doing particularly well. Against some of these other currencies. I just showed you the euro dollar, and it's not going particularly well. This is the pound dollar, not going particularly well. This is the pound, moving to the upside, and again, possibly creating inverted head and shoulders here as well. So, the dollar isn't doing that well, and it
I'm
does.
going okay with my little bet with myself, aren't I? Hey,
You don't have to trade the dollar. Let's have a look at the dollar
the
spot.
bloody dollar! What a waste of space it is.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. So, dollar spot. Now we were talking about the month. We were talking about on the month of May. Oh, it's quite flat, isn't it? Yeah, it's not particularly good. It's not particularly good. I think the dollar's quite interesting, isn't it? Because we are at a potential level of resistance here on these monthly on the monthly chart, and we have resistance there, and potentially some more resistance here. So it looks like we might be going into a phase with some weak dollar, and that's the problem, isn't it, with gold? So I do think that gold probably is likely to weaken, and if it weakens against the dollar, that just goes to show probably how weak it is. And for that reason, there may well be better gold pairs to trade. We looked at silver yesterday, didn't we? And we also, let's have a look at silver. So silver also provided us a potential signal for some downside as well. Now, how's that working out? Doesn't look like it's quite there yet. Yeah, actually, silver just under this daily pivot as well. I mean, silver's a trade. Let's have a good look at it.
I love Trump, Helen. I think he's the greatest show on earth. Absolutely, he's fantastic. The dollar, I think the dollar is just incredibly highly overpriced and overrated. I don't get it.
This is a trade. This is a trade for sure with silver. I'm gonna have to work out how much this costs, but this is a trade. I mean, look at this. But we saw yesterday's bar. Let me blow this up for you guys. This engulfing bar is the key. That's an engulfing bar right there on an hourly. To be fair, all right, it's not on a hugely significant level. But then when you look at the 4 hourly, the 4 hourly did the same thing. But we're looking at taking an entry here. So the hourly is the significant thing, because with that engulfing bar, price has come back up and testing the low end of that engulfing bar. So it's come up, bashed it, said refused, 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 refused. So it's showing that this engulfing bar is not providing resistance here, here, but it's providing it here. So that's a pretty good bet, really, isn't it? I mean, 53s. There's a 2-to-1 down there, so that is a trade. And if you want to, I don't know whether you guys got silver futures. You probably don't, do you? I'll give you the levels. Let me see. What is it? 17. Here we go. It's just a shame you got to trade silver against the dollar in many respects. But this is the chart, and this is the chart which is shaping up.
Euro on was it Fusion Markets?
On Fusion, I mean, it may be better, but this is a good trade here. I'll give you the levels here. So I'll give you against the dollar because this is the only one I can see, and visually this is absolutely fine. This is a decent trade. So we're looking at oh, hold on. 17091, 17.01. It might have to be 10 here. So entry. Stop loss. Now you can put your stop loss at the high, but you know if it starts to break through this level, the trade will come off. But I'll just give you the stop loss at the high. So 17. What would it be? 1760, let's say. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. And there's a take profit 1. At the weekly pivot. So what's that? 1620. I might tidy these levels up a little bit. The entry's right, because you just want to enter market really. Yeah, 1620 is right. 1760 is fine. So there is a potential for, probably doesn't need to be as high as 1760, but we can go 59, just round it up a bit. No, at 59, you can go 1619. There we go. So there are the levels on the trade. Now the idea with it would be that if it breaks through, if it closes above here, then you close it off, because at this stage this is providing resistance. So you can enter this at 0.5%, but you're risking 0.25%. You can enter it at 1%, but you're going to risk 0.5%. So if it comes down here, then you are 60, around about 1.5 to 1 to the way on the way down. But actually, it's really going to be more like even if it closes with some vigor, it's really going to be more like a 2.5 to 1 trade. So if it closes, and this is where you can kind of use your experience to kind of not allow yourself to get stopped out and let the market go way up here. What changes this area into something more bullish is a close above this level, right? So if we close above that level, there's no point in staying with the market. Now that doesn't mean that you ignore the move completely, but it means that you may as well just risk yourself 0.5 or 0.25% up here, and then look for a new opportunity. But it looks pretty good here. I mean, you've got the daily pivots, also acting as resistance. We saw what yesterday's bar provided. We saw the engulfing bar here on the hourly, and how that engulfing bar is also providing an area which it's likely to be unable to penetrate with any real with any real conviction. So there is a trade here on silver for some downside. Now the other one that we were looking at yesterday, and I can't remember who brought it to us. I think it might have been Shukri actually.
Huff and Puff.
Huff and Puff, yeah. Let's have a look at the Huff and Puff. Where is it? What's happened with the Huff and Puff? Here we go. Ooh. I'm going to take those down for now. Oh dear. Dear, that's
You're struggling there, bud.
Yeah, you can't trade it now. You can't really do anything with that now, unfortunately. Yesterday was the day, as many of these things have proved to be, mate.
Yeah, look, yesterday was a big day. As I said, I think we need to, well, I need to wait until things calm down a bit. I really can't offer you an explanation as to why yesterday happened as strongly as it did. I've read nothing to suggest that that should have happened.
This is the problem with this one. Look at where we are. Can't trade that now, can we? I mean, it's just too close to there. Might even be another level along there. Maybe it broke through, but it's too close. There's no room now. So you can't trade this. I mean, there's still a potential opportunity, but that was yesterday's bar there. So you would have been in pretty much nicely in the clear now. Off the back of that yesterday. But there wasn't, when I looked at this, there wasn't really a way to get in. You look at this hourly, it just broke down and broke down and broke down. So there was no, again, there's no pullback. So foundation, is this kind of based on too much? It just doesn't have any foundation, and just what we've seen with the FTSE, it did well not to trade that in the end. But again, just a bit of a lack of foundation with some of these moves. And you're right. It's difficult to know what the market is basing all this on. It does seem to be vaccine detail and vaccine news. We do have and the Fed, of course. We had as you call him, Mr. Miyagi, out yesterday. Well, do you want to have a quick look at some trades? Yeah, Shukri. I don't know if you got into that, but it's not looking too attractive now.
Okay, I'll have a little spin around the ground, shall I?
Yeah, sure. Ace, it was on silver, the trade. How to trade silver? Just the same way. Yeah, there's no way in, mate. Well, you're right, and I think that's pretty good. I think that's okay. If we can't find a way in, we can't find a way in. No big deal. It's good that we spotted it though. It's I guess we just have to log that one as a well recorded visual indication that we know what we're looking for. But yeah. Oh, is silver gone? Is it? Is silver gone already? Can't have gone already. No, silver's not gone. There's still an opportunity if you want it, Helen.
Awesome, Shukri.
Yeah, this silver's still okay if you want it, Helen, and then you can still get this one. And it's a great, it's a really this is a really good trade. It's a really it's a really good thing to really good signal here, as this is retracing back up again. Looks pretty good to me. I don't know. Is it the levels you wanted? Yeah. Give it a go. Give it a go. The levels are 17. What do we have? 17.19. So even a little bit below where we are. 17.019. Stops at the high. 17.590. And a take profit at 16.190. Okay, let's go around the grounds with you, Jeff, and see what we got.
Roger D. Okay.
Oh, you don't have silver in your MT4. Okay, that's a different issue. That I don't know about. How you trade silver. Just so you know, it's XAG USD. XAG USD. $17.06. That's okay. That's all right. 17.06 is fine. XAG USD. You might be on silver futures. The key is the price. So I'll tell you what, Helen. So the way to look at this is have a look at where you are now. The entry's fine wherever it is. It's not, we're not going to move too much. Just get your stops at the high, whatever your chart is showing you. I'm on an hourly here. Get your stops at the high on your hourly and get your take profit at the weekly pivot, wherever that is. Should be around about the 16.20 level or something like that. Stops at the highs, weekly pivot is your target. And you know, the actual numbers might differ. So don't worry about the numbers. Just worry about where visually you can see that this would need to get taken out, and where visually you need to get to take profit. And if it closes above this level here, let me blow this up for you guys. If it closes above these levels here, if it closes up there, just close the trade. Well, it does look pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay, let me pass to you, mate, unless there's any other questions on that. Yeah, so we're selling, Alan. We're not buying, we're selling. The longer time frame is showing weakness, yeah. So, you know, coming right out, look at this on a monthly. On the monthly, I'm just going to bring this down just to, actually, no, I'll blow it up. On a monthly, we are at a test of this break, right? This is our break. Dung, 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 down, and we're retesting that area. So already we have a pretty good sell zone. We're in the sell zone on the monthly. Flip to the weekly. Weekly, you know, if we get in here and this weekly bar puts in a nice shooting star, which is a negative bar, then this could come down a lot further. Now, the take profit one level is just a take profit one. You're only going to take some of your position off there. You want to let the rest run, because this could drop. This could drop quite significantly. And when you flip to your daily, you've already had that daily bar suggesting that that we may well find some further weakness today. And if we get a breakdown, then you are going to get a classic evening star, where bar one is bullish, bar two is this shooting star where you get the gap up with negativity, and bar three comes down and starts to close more than 2/3 into the bar one. So that you know, if that ends up like that today, then that will be called an evening star, and that's got negative connotations. So we're anticipating that. We're trying to anticipate that, and then when it comes down to the setup, it's just flipping down. What's the 4 hour doing? Well, 4 hours not great, but this bar does suggest that there's some weakness up here. So that's why we're putting our stop at the high of that bar. The hourly, you know, aside from the pivots, looks like it's breaking down. Because sorry, the hourly to start with is just testing this, or is attempted to get back through this this engulfing bar. Now, the engulfing bar is the area that that many people would enter short, right? That's you know, and they're looking for a trend to go short on this one. But we don't have to do that. We've just seen it retest and reject, retest and reject. So it's showing that there is some weakness here. And then there's this little trend line. Now, this is a little bit arguable, but there's this little trend line along here that looks like we've broken down. So, you know, at very minimum, it looks like we've broken down this ascending triangle. So there's a lot to like here, a lot to like about the downside. And it could potentially go quite far. Great. Yeah, you could do a sell stop order, but I would just enter at market. I mean, it's, you know, it's at the price you need it at. I wouldn't do a sell stop order. The sell stop orders would have been, you know, got in here. So, you know, really that's the point that people put limit orders in. It's looking good here. Yeah, if you want to do it, it would be more of a limit order than a sell stop probably, because you know, if you're not in already, then you'd be putting a limit order in along this line. Now, your price is going to be different to mine, but you'd be putting a limit order in along this line. But already, to me, I'd just be saying, you know, I just sell by market is you're not going to gain much by putting a limit order in. And this is a slow mover. Silver moves very, very gently, so don't expect it to move fast. But that's kind of nice in a lot of ways. Okay, so let's pass to you, mate, and then we'll come back and you know, maybe have a look at some FTSE later on.
Right, bud. Euro first up, and as I've been saying throughout the show, I don't understand why what happened yesterday happened, and I'm of the opinion that it will reverse. We're going to wax off at some stage. We certainly had a wax on yesterday, there's no doubt. So I'm thinking minimum retracement, maximum let's wipe out yesterday altogether. That's my thought process. Whether it'll happen or not, of course, is another story. And already we have seen the other story side of things, because we've opened up with a very bullish frame of mind, certainly on euro dollar, and therefore dollar weakness. Well, not therefore dollar weakness, but I'm seeing dollar weakness continue early into what I consider to be the trading day, which pretty much started 15 minutes ago for me. So what do I do? Well, the only option that I have here is to play a false break of the support trade line, sorry, resistance trade line. If I look at the daily chart, maybe there's a little bit left in this before we can look to short, because we're at the limit of this descending triangle. And if I'm to play a descending triangle to break to the low side, I'd certainly want to be playing it from here. So I'm looking for either a bounce off this which is a trend line in concert with the hypotenuse of the triangle. So either a bounce off here or a breakthrough back underneath and retest. We've got the monthly pivot in play here as well. I think that's quite a cool level. Also, what we would then be looking to do is trade this short. So maybe we're just a little bit early at the moment, thinking that the euro can go short. Let me have a look at the 4-hour chart. And that line is not in play because it's only on a 30-minute chart. So I'm still of the same opinion that we want to touch this level or break it and get back underneath it and underneath here, then we can go short. So short is definitely the sport that I want to play, but I don't see it there just yet. Dollar yen. We've got a trade on dollar yen. I don't know if we've given that to you or not. Might as well. If we haven't, there's the order there. It's on the weekly chart. It is a sell at 106.43. Well, you can read it. I don't need to read it out to you. But you probably have got that one anyway. What would violate this order would be if the top of the range is taken out, and probably the stop loss at the same time. So whilst ever that's there, this trade is still valid and we are still at a resistance level. So I've got no reason to think that this can't go short. That said, I would be still looking to play this short on a smaller time frame. Don't forget, this is a weekly chart we're trading this on. So we've got tons of room to play a short if it sets up in the meantime. And I think we had this conversation yesterday. Lewis was asking that question. So you're more than willing to trade it short on a smaller time frame, but it's just got to set up. And at this point in time, it hasn't. Maybe today we get something like break, hit the monthly pivot for a second time, then get back underneath these levels, retest them, then we can look to play it short. But there's nothing there at the moment. You'll notice, of course, with all of these against the US dollar, because the dollar was so weak yesterday, we have untested daily pivots, and they are a long way from price. And that's normally a very, very good thing for me. So the short is definitely what I'm looking for here against these dollars or the dollar pairs. And Aussie is, of course, in that category. You'll notice that we are at the top of this range again. Surprisingly to me, I thought this would go to monthly pivot. I'm still of that opinion, but the old dollar weakness is something that I crave, frankly, more often than not. But I wasn't ready for it. I was waiting for this to happen, and it hasn't as yet. So a lot of work to do if the Aussie is to get down to this level. How do I see that playing? Well, really, because we're at the top of the range, all we need to see is a lower high here on pretty much any time frame. would be okay. For the longer the better, obviously, as is the mantra of just about everybody who trades anything. The longer the stronger. So of course we're looking for that on a, let's say, 4-hour chart. That's going to take hours. On the 30-minute charts, which is our other analysis tool, yes, we have the top. Yes, we have a bearish engulfing bar. So that's giving me the indication that all I need now is the lower high. And if we were to just sell off here a little bit, then come back and put in that lower high on that level would be cool. Something that would look like a head and shoulders on a 30-minute chart. I don't know how much credence I want to put into that particular scenario, but the lower high would get me interested. And looking for a confluence is the hardest part here. That's all I've got, is the top of this range and the lower high. Better to have a trade line confluence. Maybe that occurs much, much later with that one there. But gee, I'm talking much, much later, aren't I? So yeah, a little bit of sell-off, maybe find this level, then bounce back, give us the lower high in this area, and we could look to trade it. Obvious targets, you want to take profit before the low of the day, which is here, and you could either exit at the daily pivot. I don't think I'd be trusting the weekly pivot. In fact, I would be exiting at the daily pivot. That would be the trade that I'd be looking for. The dollar's just too strong to trade against. Yeah, I like it. Pound US dollar. Okay, I see, and I have seen the potential for this from a technical point of view to rally and rally hard, but trading that is a mighty, mighty task, especially where we are currently. Why is it a mighty task? Well, it's in so much SH1T, to be fair, and having broken the bottom of this range here significantly, in my humble opinion, and then the retest yesterday, which I still don't quite, I won't say agree with, because it's not me to agree with the market. I don't quite see as valid. I'll put it that way. But I can't argue with the market. I have to put up with what the market dishes out. So I've got to follow what's going on. And what potentially is going on is a re-entry back into this range. Surprisingly, extremely surprisingly for me, but there you go. The market surprises me day in, day out. So there's no reason that I shouldn't be surprised today. So if we do get back into here and maybe put a close, let's see where. I can't turn that off. Let me try and turn it. There we go. I turned it off. If we were to come back inside this range and put in a reasonable close, say up here at the high of this candle, then pull back. In fact, probably up here would be better at this former resistance level. Let's find that again. DR2, perfect. So if we were to hit there, then come back to the bottom of the range, or even this level here, and put in a higher low, then I have to trade it to the high side. And when I look at this market structure, that combined with this massive support level that we're at, we spoke about it earlier, I can definitely see a bounce to goodness even knows where, maybe even there in the first instance, which is how many pips away. Not saying we jump in here, but we're 1,000 pips from where we are right now. So that's worth considering, most definitely, if it were to set up. I can absolutely see a reversal pattern. I think it's on the daily chart. No, it's not really. It's on a smaller time frame. Is it the 4-hour chart? Might be a weaker signal. Yeah, it's kind of there. Left shoulder, head. Haven't really got a significant right shoulder, but it's kind of there. And on the smaller time frames, it is there. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So I'm okay with trading this. I see the neckline of that head and shoulders around about there somewhere. So even this candle, if it were to retest that, may even be tradable as an A, B, C. Early day, early in the piece, But if you want to catch it early, then you probably catch it there early. So I'm not too far away from liking this. I'd really like it to close on the weekly pivot. So come back, test the trade line or retest the trade line and the weekly pivot. And I would place an order there. Absolutely, I would. But it's got to get there. I need it to get down to here. If it does, we'll come back and place that order. And that's in 6 minutes. Dollar CAD. It does go off often in class. You're right. That's one of the penalties of running a business, I suppose, isn't it, Helen? They just won't leave you alone. They don't give a toss what time of day it is. They just ring me, dipsticks. Oh, lovely customers, I mean. Dollar CAD.
They're your customers. I'm not sure if I can buy from you now.
I should shut my mouth sometimes, shouldn't I? No, I'm sure they're lovely people, but they just don't understand it is now.
Understand you don't want to take their call.
I don't want to what?
You don't want to take their call.
No, I don't. But I'll call them back. I'll call them back. Don't panic. It's all good. This one's tough, I got to say. And I know somebody asked the question about this. I think it was probably Lewis. Yes, it is Lewis. Oh, mate, I really can't make a call on this. It's really tough. Customers King, you're right. That's apart from cash and Donald Trump, of course. I don't see where we're at here, frankly. Yes, we've come off the top. We've gone to the bottom. Didn't make it to the top. Didn't make it to the bottom. Put in a lower high. Put in a higher low. This is all over the shop like the proverbial mad woman's breakfast, right? So all I can give you is nothing. I can just say that eventually we're going to break out of this pennant. But that's it. Maybe, no, I'm not even keen, see, because we're getting lower highs and higher lows, and we haven't been to the top or the bottom for ages. So which one's in play here? Am I looking for a higher low or am I looking for a lower high? I really don't know. I've got to wait. I've got to wait till price gets to here or to here before I've then got a reason to look from a directional point of view. So, mate, sorry, got nothing there. It doesn't do anything for me. And dollar Swissy, it does look like a symmetrical triangle. I 100% agree with you, Crystal. And that doesn't, as I said, doesn't do anything for me. And this is very similar, dollar Swissy. I see we've been to the top, put in a nice tweezer top or double top, whatever you want to call it, went to the bottom, almost to the top, but not, found the monthly pivot, and we've really had strong support off the monthly pivot. But then what? What happens next? Yes, we've got a range within a range. So pick your poison. Where's your highs? Let's say there. Where's your lows? Let's say the monthly pivot. So you've got another range forming inside the range. And again, you've got another pennant or symmetrical triangle, as you say, Crystal. That doesn't do anything for me. We've been to the top and the bottom in, what am I on, 4 hours in 2 of the last 4-hour candles. So I'm not full with any confidence here at all. I need to see this settle down or show me that wants to break out of here or whatever the case may be. If it were to go to the top and then give me a genuine significant lower high, then yeah, sure. And same off the bottom. But, when you're getting this sort of price action, no thanks. Now, the Kiwi, like the rest of these pairs yesterday, just shot off like a fuse had been lit, frankly. And that's exactly what we didn't want, having taken our first profit on this weekly trade that we are still in, of course. If we break the high of this range, then this trade's probably in trouble. And we are still at small risk. We've only taken TP1 here, not TP2. So we do have small risk involved in this. But I couldn't say that there's anything to do here, to be fair. The small risk that we do have left on the table, I think I'll be willing just to sacrifice that if we do go through the highs. But I see no reason for that to occur. I'll add that little caveat to it. So I won't be looking to exit anything here. I think everything is not great, but we do have a break of the monthly pivot and now a retest of it. So yeah, I'll stick with my analysis and see how we go. If the dollar does, for whatever reason, return to its former strength in the early part of this month, then we should be okay here. We shall see, but there's nothing to do. So on the majors, I have absolutely nothing that I can give you right now apart from what I would like to see happen in the not too distant future. Now, there's one thing I did want to say to you guys, and you guys should be in CAD Swiss. I think you guys should be in CAD Swiss on the 4-hour chart. And I want you to tell me that you've taken your second take profit at the top of this range and you've moved your stops to entry. That's what I want you to tell me if you are in this trade. I still think we've got a strong chance of getting to these areas here around about the 70, 50, 70, 75 mark. And I think that's probably where I'd be looking to take taking the rest of this off. Susan, yes, excellent. You've done exactly right. Take your second. If you haven't done that, there's probably still the opportunity to do that. But I definitely want you to be taking your second profit. So the second of your 3 positions off at that level, the top of that range, which was pretty much 1-to-1. Might have been a little bit better than 1-to-1. I can't quite remember. Awesome, Shukri. Well done. So that's, in a nutshell, you've just witnessed exactly the system that I use, right? When I'm in a range, we take profit at the first resistance level, which we did, the first lot of profit, second lot of profit at the structure, the top of the structure in this case, and then we let price go and see what happens thereafter. But we always, at TP2, move our stops to entry. So what you've banked now is yours. And if we get fortunate, then we get the rest of the trade wherever that may land, and we'll start to trail. Maybe when we hit the top of this range, we'll switch down to a smaller time frame and trail pretty tight, because we would expect at that point that it will turn around. When I saw dollar Swissy spike, I remember Jeff saying fake, so banked in CAD Swiss. Awesome, Shukri, awesome. I love it, love it, love it. All right, so that was pretty much it from me, mate. I did place an order this morning that I'll share with you, because I'm probably going to, or not because, but I'm probably going to cancel it. Pound Swissy, and this is an interesting one, and this is quite typical of what I saw this morning, where we'd had strong breakouts, and one of two things is going to happen here. One is that's going to be a false break, and we often play that, if you'll recall. It's a single candle false break where we put an entry above that bar and we put our stop loss below. Well, I've done exactly the reverse of that on this occasion, but I've used this bar. And the reason is because the break I saw and the retest I saw with a gap to the bottom, we opened with a gap to the short side, right? Then we rallied, we hit the bottom of the range, we hit the weekly pivot and pulled off both of them. So for me, if price is to take any notice of what's just happened, bearish engulfing bar, lower high, break through the bottom, retest of the bottom, I think there's an excellent chance this can go lower and test the lows down here. So that's why, rather than play, that's a massive bar last week, right? And maybe the retest just continues for the rest of the week. I don't know, but I really can't see this going long at this point. That bar there is quite crucial, and so is that one and this one. The problem, of course, is going to be that little low there. But gee, I think this has got downside written all over it, so that's why we've taken that short. If you want to follow it, the entry was at 1.1727. Stop loss is 180 pips. And TP1 is at 142 pips, where I will close, unlike most weekly, daily, 4-hour trades, I'm going to close half of the position at that point. The reason for that is I see only two positions here. I can't see this going through the lows, frankly, and that's where we'll be taking our second profit. If it were to go through the lows, wow, where does it go? Down there? Is it is it actually worth thinking that we can go through that double bottom there and go another 6,840 pips? It's worth keeping something open for, don't you think? Probably is. Should have reassessed that. Even if you left, 50 cent per pip open on that, be okay. Not bad on the risk, is it? Okay, let's reassess that if and when the time comes. We shall see. Righto, I've got nothing more to add, Ash. That is it. It's
Okay, mate.
a little bit tough after yesterday to find an entry, I've got to say.
Yeah, FTSE's weakening off a little bit, which is actually really good for us because it just it does mean that we can assess this later on in the day and see whether the US market does give us a potential entry for some upside at a decent price. We've seen a pretty weak opening first hour with the 4 hour showing some longer term resistance and longer term selling potentially in play, as does the hourly. Silver is flat, so we will just wait and see what happens with that one. As I say, don't worry too much about it. Silver won't move very fast. That's just a trade that you leave and come back every
I
every
remember
hour.
that. I tried to trade that a few weeks ago, didn't I?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had to take some drugs to keep awake.
It is a slow burner. It is a slow burner, silver. But
not for me.
It's if it's going to make money, it's going to make money, right? I mean, this is the thing. As long as it doesn't take all year down to get get some profit out of it and cost a load of swaps, which of course it won't do, then it's fine. So leave that one go. FTSE easing to the downside, which is great, as I say. And I did consider a short to go long, but I'm not going to play that. I'm just going to wait and see what happens when we get down to the daily pivot on the FTSE. But that's not going to be for a while, mate. So probably in the US session, we'll get to look at the FTSE and potentially get a long trade in the market. But let's see, because there's a couple of things we need to be a little bit wary of, which I'll discuss later on.
Interesting point, mate, before we do go. If you read the detail on Powell's testimony, he has already released that. It doesn't tell me to whom he's released that. So that statement has already been released to someone. I assume the press.
Interesting. Has it been published?
It doesn't say that. It just says source released testimony text 18 hours earlier than scheduled. So it's already out there, but who's got it? I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, interesting. Where did you see that?
It's in the detail on Forex Factory.
Okay, let me have a look. Okay. All right, I'll still can read up on that and see what's being said on that. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll see what I can find from that. In actual fact, should be on that. Well, that could be interesting, couldn't it? That could be interesting. 19th of May. Okay, yeah, I've got something here, so I'll have a look and we'll discuss it later in the show and see what could be some of the dangers of the FTSE long.
So he's now Mr. Miyagi, is he?
Well, that's what you christened him yesterday.
Well, it wasn't for him really. It was but he's the catalyst. So yes, you're why not? Let's call him Miyagi.
Okay.
Miyagi from this day forward.
All right. Well, he's out later on. He actually during the show as well. So we might even possibly listen into that at the end of the show. I'll see if I can get it on it, and whether it's worth it. If it is, then we'll all listen together and see whether we can react on it too.
And Roy, I think the answer to your question, although this is not official, is you'll have a few days to think about it. But Ash, you might want to put
yeah, you probably will. Any suggestions to manage the stop loss through the day for silver once we are on the profit side. Well, wait until the it's difficult, really, mate. I mean, we will have a look at it later on in the show. I wouldn't want to take anything until it gave me a few cycles. If it hasn't hit the profit, let's imagine it is going down. Let's imagine we're right on it. If it hasn't hit the profit side, I wouldn't want to do anything until we hit the cycle with it. If it breaks, I suppose the low. Do you know? I'd leave it. Actually, leave it, because you know what you're going to do with it. If it pops up and closes up, then you close the trade anyway. But right now, let's leave it. And as Jeff says, we've probably got a little while. We've got tomorrow together, and I'm sure Silver won't have moved that far by the time we get back on the show tomorrow. So a trail on an hourly. But be careful, because Silver moves so slowly. You might get a trail on too tight. So yeah, just leave it. See what happens. Okay, Helen. We'll if you are at break even, then close back the ones that you want to get rid of. Don't keep that trade open, or don't keep all those lots open. Keep the lots that you wanted. Let's say you try to put in a 0.01, but you put in 0.1 instead. Close down 0.9. If your trade is flat, close down 0.9. It will be far too stressful for you. Well done.
Absolutely. I can absolutely guarantee you that. That happened to me very early in my days.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I had something like $200 per pip, and I'm going, oh,
yeah.
What do I do now? It was going in the right direction, fortunately, and I was able to close it. But that is high stress.
It is, and you know what, Helen? This is the thing. It's a really horrible mistake to make. But you've done the right thing, and everybody, I would almost say with quite a lot of confidence, everybody's made that mistake, where you just put too much on. You miscalculate. You put the wrong digit in. You put the wrong put the wrong decimal point in. Everybody's done it. So don't beat yourself up on it. Let yourself if it's hurting right now, I don't know how much you've lost, or if you have lost anything. But if you lost anything, if it's hurting, just step away for a little while, because it won't matter in the long run. It's just a mistake that happens. It's just one of those things. As irritating as it is, it does just happen. And you'll look back later on, the trade would have gone your way, and you go, I should have stayed in it. But that's not good practice. Oh, really? Out again? Okay. All right. Something doesn't sound right there, but maybe Silver's not. Maybe you haven't got a big enough account to trade Silver, which, if that's the case, then you'll have to skip it. That's possible too. I'm not sure what the account size you've got would be, but yeah, if that's the case, then you might have to skip Silver. All right, buddy. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll be back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. We'll also be in the UK show. I'm going to play a different song today. I'm going to do a different song every day for me. Got another one lined up. Bit of Doris Day. And I want to know. Yeah. Silver is definitely going down. It might be the spread. Could be the spread that's a problem. Have a look at the spread that you've got with the broker. Yeah, let me know how good your speakers are, guys, because I want to play you something really fat by the end of the week, but I can't play it unless you won't enjoy it unless you got heavy speakers. I'm talking about the guys in the US show, but you can tell me that later on. All right, we will take a break now, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh yes, a bit of Sledgehammer. That might be one of my tunes for the week, Helen. That might have just got promoted. Thanks for reminding me on that one.
Is it that one?
Yeah, good song that. I'll check it
out.
Word
I know in that song.
Oh, it's pretty much the only word in the song. It's one of those very, very cleverly constructed choruses that just repeat and repeat and repeat. Very, very well constructed song that. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow at 5 to 8.
To date, don't be late. See you guys.